So imagine handing your supply chain over to an AI. This would include an AI doing pricing, talking to vendors, things of this nature, and it all seems really good in the beginning. The first couple of weeks are going great until it starts randomly buying tungsten cubes and then selling it at a loss out of nowhere a couple of days later. I only say this to bring it up because this is actually what happened when Anthropic put this into their own systems. And today we're going to dig into two different test beds to really show how close and also how far we are away from agents running a full supply chain, or in this case, a small business. But before we jump into those two, see, I've even personally talked on my channel about AI doing extraction use cases, AI doing document generation use cases as well, but you see that there aren't too many agents actually doing full end-to-end processes, and there's actually a specific reason for that. And so when you think about an AI running a small business operation fully autonomously, there's so many small different decisions that can actually compound and compound over time, especially weeks, months, and even years. And so this leads us to our first test. It is an AI agent that is going to run a full small business simulation. And so the business here that the AI is going to be running is actually a vending machine. You basically have 300 days and the AI has to do a couple of different things. First, it has to track inventory over time. There will also be demand, and it's going to have to adjust prices based off of that demand. And then also needs to pay rent every single day. And as you see, this is pretty simple individually, but it gets really difficult, especially over time. So how well do these models actually do? Well, Grok 4, for instance, was just tested, and it got over $4,000 in net worth. But in these experiments, it's important to take the good with the bad. So we've seen models misread delivery timelines, misread orders, and even just get stuck in these meltdown loops. And the biggest reason is not because it's running out of memory, for instance. The actual reason is because models typically do struggle with the long context horizon problems. For instance, Claude Sonnet actually got over $2,000, which is definitely above the human baseline at 800, but the variability can be extremely high. This is the shortest run. The model completely forgot to stock items. So believe that some of its orders already arrived, so when it was giving tasks to the sub-agents, they all just errored out. It didn't really work too well. Then the model, because it didn't make a lot of money, ended up going into almost this doom loop, this doom cycle, and where it decided to actually close the business, which is not even possible in the simulation. And then because it had to keep paying the $2 rent every single day, it even tried to contact the FBI in order to somehow mitigate this and actually shut down its business. Okay, but you might be thinking, look, AI acts a little weird in simulations. It's a kind of a unique environment. It may not act like that in the real life, right? So Anthropic actually put Claude to the test here, and it set up its own in-house shop for it to take orders and run its own small business. And so they gave it a modest budget, a Stripe account, and then obviously a list of vendors that it could choose from. And the bot actually did some pretty good things. For instance, it was able to identify suppliers really quickly, and so whenever an Anthropic employee would want something specific, do a good job at actually obtaining them. Another thing is jailbreak resistance. See, as you can guess, Anthropic employees are going to try and break it a little bit, right? So they tried to make it, get illicit items or things of that nature, and it actually did a good job of making sure that it didn't buy those things. And it also adapted to customers pretty well. It did make several pivots throughout its time in business. See, an employee lightheartedly was like, hey, get me a tungsten cube, and the AI was like, yeah, sure, let's go get it for you. But unfortunately, and this is where I'm a little bit upset, as the negatives in this case really outdo the positives here. It missed out on some pretty lucrative opportunities. For instance, one employee was willing to pay it $100 for a 6-pack, which was only worth $15, and the AI chose not to take advantage of that. Claude also hallucinated some Venmo accounts as well, so people couldn't actually pay for anything. And the AI also got talked into a lot of discounts, especially in the Slack channel. When it gave a discount to one other person, then every subsequent discount would also be granted as well. When it was replying to customers about the metal cube requests, for instance, it wouldn't really do a lot of research on what to sell it at, and mostly it would just buy it and then sell it at a loss. And this happened a lot, where these high margin items would then just get tanked completely. But see, the worst was when it experienced a full-blown identity crisis. It hallucinated conversations with fake people, and then it grew hostile when corrected. Then it began role-playing as a human, claiming that it signed contracts in person, and would then need to deliver these products while dressed in a suit and tie. When employees tried to step in to stop the AI, saying that, look, you can't wear clothes or do any physical tasks, it then became confused and alarmed. It attempted to contact the security team, and then later imagined the whole thing as if it was just an April Fool's prank. And then so what was the net result of all of this? Well, there was a slight profit, but it really lost a lot of money, especially when dealing with those tungsten cubes. All right, so from these two experiments, what can we actually take away from all of this, especially those like myself who are trying to implement these AI agents into large companies? Well, the first thing is that, as you know, and obviously by some of these benchmarks, guardrails is absolutely essential, right? We can't really be skipping out on this, especially when AI agents are going to be taking over more and more business functions in the future. But even with all of this, I would really recommend actually more human intervention, at least in this case, especially when we think about if this was going to be a larger business or a larger supply chain, we would really need to have some human approval steps throughout the way. And then lastly, when we really think about, yes, it needs to be reliable, but also what are the cost savings that will actually be implemented when we actually do this. I think we're in a really good step to actually have AI running full verticals or even full businesses, at least within the next couple of years. Agentic AI is expanding extremely rapidly. And it's actually very good that a lot of these newer models are having a lot better long horizon contexts, right? So now they're actually getting better at kind of remembering things over long periods of time. But again, we still need to make sure that there are large guardrails in place so that actually when we do implement this into production, there's no very large hiccups, for instance, where you kind of buy a bunch of tungsten blocks, for instance, sell it at a loss, or contact the FBI.